What happens back? A brand chief's son thinks he's aloft the law and assaults a 70-year-old Vietnam adept in broad daylight. This aloof man absolved into Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom, assertive his father's brand would assure him from any consequences. But a back adjudicator Caprio fabricated his father choose amid his son and justice. What happened to Budding became the best talked about moment in Providence courtroom history. The actor stood there smirking as heddled adjudicator Caprio, "My dad runs this town. You can't blow me, old man." The entire attorneys fell silent. But what nobody knew was that Bran Arch Thomas Cole was sitting in the back of that courtroom, watching his son destroy everything he'd spent 35 years building. And the accommodation he was about to make would breach hearts, restore acceptance and justice, and prove that some fathers love their attempt at it than protecting their children's mistakes. Before we dive into this incredible story, beneath than 5% of you watching are actually subscribed. If you accept in real justice, an anniversary our veterans, and in captivation the able accountable, hit that subscribe button. Adapted now. This adventure is activity to spread everywhere, and you don't appetite to miss what happens next. It's an alleged November morning in Providence Municipal Court, and adjudicator Frank Caprio is advancing for what seems like an accepted advance case. At 76 years old, adjudicator Caprio has seen thousands of cases, but article about this one feels different. The victim is a 70-year-old Vietnam adept named Robert Martinez. The actor is 32-year-old Derek Cole, son of Providence Bran Arch Thomas Cole. The case book tells an advancing story. 3 days ago, Robert Martinez was walking his dog in Roger Williams Esplanade when Derek Cole, active his BMW at excessive speed, about hit him. Aback Martinez raised his Duke to resting Derek to slow down. Derek chock-full his car, got out, and confronted the aged veteran. According to 3 abstracted witnesses, Derek shoved Martinez to the ground, causing him to hit his arch on thepavement. Aback bystanders approved to intervene. Derek allegedly said, "Do y'all know who I am? My ancestor is the police chief. Call the cops. I cartel you." Then collection away. Abrogation. The 70-year-old veteran bleeding on the ground. Martinez suffered a concussion, 3 broken ribs, and a burst wrist. He spent 1 night in Rhode Island hospital. The incident was captured on a nearby security camera, and aback the footage went viral on Bounded News. The anti-arrest city of Providence accepted justice. The attorneys is arranged this morning. Local reporters, anxious citizens, veteran advancement groups, and court watchers who chase adjudicator Caprio's case shave all apparent up. There's an activity in room, a faculty that something significant is about to happen. Buthers, what's cipher in that courtroom now's yet? Bran Arch Thomas Cole is sitting in the back row cutting civilian clothes, his brand tucked away. He hasn't told his son he's here, and there as in he came will shock everyone. At technically 10:30 a.m., the BAFE calls the case. The accompaniment of Rhode Island vs. Derek Michael Cole, answerable with assault and array on an aged person. Derek Cole walks in like he owns the place. He's cutting in big-ticket suit. Designer watch bright beneath the courtroom lights, and that smirk. That arrogant smirk that makes anybody in the gallery immediately animosity him. He doesn't look remorseful. He doesn't attending concerned. He looks affronted that he has to be here at all. Behind him enters his attorney, Marcus Richardson, one of Providence's most expensive aegis lawyers. The affectionate who specializes in accepting affluent clients out of trouble. But here's the moment that catches everyone's attention. When Eric passes the row area Robert Martinez is sitting, cutting his Vietnam veteran cap and acknowledging his broken wrist in a cast. Derek doesn't have glance at him. No acknowledgement, no remorse, nothing. Adjudicator Caprio looks up from his paperwork, and those affectionate eyes that accept apparent benevolence. 2000 suddenly about face ice cold. He's already read the case file. He's already seen the aegis footage, and he's already made up his apperception that this adolescent man is going to apprentice assignment today. Cole. Adjudicator Caprio begins, his voice measured but firm. You're answerable with assault and array on an elderly person, accurately on Mr. Robert Martinez, a 70-year-old Vietnam veteran. How do you plead? Derek's attorney stands up quickly. Your Honor, my client pleads not guilty. We accept this as a case of mistaken identity. And Judge Caprio holds up his hand. Counselor, I asked your client, not you. Mr. Cole, do you accept a voice? Derek stands up, and this is area his airs reality shows. He adjusts his clothing jacket, looks directly at adjudicator Caprio with that smirk still on his face and says, not guilty. Your Honor, this accomplished affair is ridiculous. The chat anic hangs in the air like a slap. Adjudicator Capriously removes his glasses. His signature move back he's about to deliver a absoluteness check. Ridiculous? Judge Caprio repeats, Mr. Cole, I've reviewed the aegis footage. I've read the hospital reports. I've apparent the photographs of Mr. Martinez's injuries. Would you like to amend your characterization of this case as ridiculous? Derek glances at his lawyer, who's frantically aggravating to arresting him to stay quiet. But Derek's ego won't let him back down. Your Honor, with all due respect, Derek says. And anybody in the courtroom knows that a back addition starts with all due respect. Disrespect is about to follow. This is actuality blown out of proportion. Some old guy got in me way. I almost affected him, and now I'm in abject into cloister like a criminal. The arcade gasps. Did he just call a Vietnam adept some old guy? Did Haloof say he almost affected him when the man spent nights in the hospital? Adjudicator Caprio sets bottomward his glasses actual carefully. His jaw tightens. For anyone who will watch his bent improvidence, they apperceive this look. This is Judge Caprio aback. His benevolence has reached its absolute. And amends is a Buddha be served Dotmer. Cole, Adjudicator Caprio says. His voice still calm, but accustomed to the weight of absolute authority. Before we proceed, I want to accept something. Do y'all know who Mr. Martinez is? Derek shrugs. Some guy who was in my way. The disrespect is palpable. Robert Martinez in the arcade shows no action. He sits with the quiet dignity that comes from a lifetime of servicing sacrifice. But his adolescent veterans and the attorneys are visibly angry. Judge Caprio stands up from his bench and walks about to the front. This is rare. This agency article big as a Budo happened. Dotmer. Martinez, Adjudicator Caprio says, looking directly at the aged veteran. Would you amuse Angle and acquaint Mr. Cole who you are? Robert Martinez boring stands, supporting himself with his acceptable arm. Your Honor. My name is Robert Martinez. I served in the United States Marine Corps from 1968 to 1971. I did tours in Vietnam. I was awarded the Purple Affection and the Bronze Star for Valor. I'm a retired Providence Ephoric. I've lived in this burgle for 50 years. And 3 canicule ago, this man, he gestures against Derek afterwards attractive Atham, assaulted me for no acumen other than I asked him to apathetic bottomward in a public park. The attorneys is absolutely slant. Adjudicator Caprio nods respectfulito Martinez, who sits back down. Now, Judge Caprio turns back to Derek. Murdoch Cold, you accept what you just heard. You assaulted a busy combat veteran, a man who risked his activity for this country. A man who spent 30 years running into a fire barrio to save people. And you alleged him some old guy who got in your way. Derek's beam is starting to fade, but his arrogance has. Your Honor, I didn't apperceive he was a veteran. How was I declared to know? Judge Caprio's acknowledgement is actual and devastating. Mr. Cole, it shouldn't matter if he's adept or not. Assault is assault. But the actuality that you think it would alone amount if you knew his of his almanac tells me. Aggregate a need to apperceive about your character. But guys, before I acquaint you what Judge Caprio does next, I charge you to do something. In the comments below, tell 'em. Accept you or addition you adulation ever being disrespected because of their age. Have you apparent adolescent bodies amusement elders with contempt? Allotment your adventure because of this is about added than one case. This is about respect, dignity, and how we treat the bodies who came before us. Derek's advocate all over is an aggravating to control the damage. Your Honor, Michaelian is adolescent and fabricated a poor choice of words. But the affirmation will show evidence. Adjudicator Caprio interrupts. Counselor, I've apparent the evidence. In fact, let's watch it together. He signals to the cloister agent who starts playing the Aegis camera footage on the attorney's monitor. Anybody watches in blackout as the video shows exactly what happened. Derek's BMW speeding through the park. About hitting Martinez, the adept adopting his hand. Derek slamming on his brakes, getting out of his car. And Berserk shoving 70-year-old man to the ground. The footage is clear. The advance is undeniable. And Derek's actions afterward, continuing over Martinez, pointing at him while shouting, then casually accepting it back in his car and driving away. It's damning. When the video ends, Adjudicator Caprio looks at Derek. Still anticipate this is ridiculous, Mr. Cole? Derek's face has gone pale. His advocate is whispering gurgently in his ear. But Derek's ego, that baneful aggregate of advantage and arrogance, won't let him back down completely. Your Honor, Derek says, his voice slightly all a-quiver now. I was accepting a bad day. I'd aloof gotten some bad news. I wasn't celebration clearly. Adjudicator Caprio says narrow. A bad day, Mr. Cole. I've been on this bank for over 30 years. I've apparent bodies who absent their jobs, lost their homes, absent their children coming from me. You apperceive what they don't do. Advanced aged veterans because they are accepting a bad day. The judge walks after peace to Derek, eliminating the physical ambit amid them. Let me tell you what I anticipate happen, Murdoch Cole. I anticipate you've spent your entire life assertive you're special. I think your father's position as brand chief has cloistral you from consequences. I think you've never been captivated accountable for your actions. And I anticipate you walk it until my attorneys today assured that pattern to continue. Derek tries to interrupt, but Adjudicator Caprio holds up his hand. I'm not finished. You see, Murdoch Cole, I've dealt with bodies like you before. Bodies who anticipate their last name, their father's position. Their family's money makes them untouchable. But here's what you're about to learn. In my courtroom, none of that matters. What affairs is the law? What affairs is justice? What affairs is alleviated every human actuality with address and respect. Now, here's area the adventure takes that and that cipher sees coming. Judge Caprio pauses, looks against the back-off courtroom, and says article that makes Derek's claret run cold. Keith Cole, Adjudicator Caprio calls out, would you amuse appear forward? The entire courtroom turns around. Sitting in the back row, continuing up slowly, is Police Chief Thomas Cole. He's been there the whole time. He heard aggregate his son said. He watched his son appearance no remorse. And the attending on his face, it's not anger, it's heartbreak. Derek spins about and for the first time back entering the courtroom. His arrogance absolutely shatters. Dad, what are you accomplishing here? Arch Cole walks down the centermost aisle. Anniversary footfall heavy with the weight of 35 years in law enforcement. He's in his backward 50s, gray at the temples, cutting a simple button-down shirt and slacks. No uniform, no badge. Aloof, a father watching his son abort aggregate head on him. Judge Caprio addresses the Arch with genuine respect. Arch Cole, acknowledge you for actuality here. I apperceive this charge by incredibly difficult. Arch Cole stands at attention, his brand training evident in his posture. Your Honor, I appreciate you acceptance me to represent. Derek is panicking now. His slayer looks confused. The arcade is on bend of their seats. What is happening? Adjudicator Caprio continues, Chief, your son seems to accept that your position will assure him from the consequences of his actions. He's implied assorted times that because you're in law administration in the city, he's somehow aloft accountability. I'd like to accord you and befalling to address thought belief. The attorneys holds its collective breath. This is the moment Affather has to accept amid protecting his son. An advancement the principal has committed his activity to. Chief Cole takes abysmal breath. His voice, the back he speaks, is abiding, but filled with emotion. Your Honor, my son is wrong. He has consistently been amiss about it. I've spent 35 years confined this city. I've arrested biologic dealers, murderers, base officials. I've put me activity on the band to assure the innocent and advocate the law. And no taunts. Not one distinct time except I ever believed that my brand gave me or my family the adapted to breach those same laws. Derek tries to speak. Dad, that chief holds up his duke, and the authority in that action silences hissing immediately. Derek, be quiet. You've said enough. He turns back to Judge Caprio. Your Honor, I watched the security footage the day afterwards the incident. I saw what my son did to Murdoch Martinez. I've apprehended the hospital reports. I apperceive absolutely what happened. And I'm actuality today not as Brand Keith Cole, but as Thomas Cole, an ancestor who failed to advise his son the most important lessons. Respect, abasement, and accountability. The chief's articulation cracks slightly. I thought I accomplished him adapted from wrong. I thought I showed him what it agency to serve others, to assure the vulnerable, to amusement anybody with dignity, regardless of their base in life. Boot somewhere forth the way, I failed. And that failure, he gestures against Hisson. That abortion is continuing right here. Derek's face crumbles. For the first time, tears able-bodied up in his eyes. Dad, please. Arch Cole turns to Hisson. And what he says a budding will bear remembered in Providence acknowledged history forver. Derek, I adulation you. You're my son, and that will never change. But love doesn't beggarly attention you from after effects of your actions. Love means captivation you answerable, so you can become the man you're declared to be. Hell looks back at Adjudicator Caprio. Your Honor, I'm actuality to acquaint you in this cloister that whatever book you account appropriate. You accept my abounding support. My son assaulted a busy veteran. He showed no remorse. He disrespected this court, and he disrespected aggregate I've spent my activity continuing for. He deserves to face the abounding weight of the law, and he will not interfere. In fact, if I could, I would ask you to be a leg more severe than you commonly would bet because he needs to apprentice. This lesson 04 he hurts edition else. The attorneys erupts and whispers. This is unprecedented. A brand arch and open court allurement adjudicator to bandy the book at his own son. Derek is above board crying now. Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't beggarly Keith Cole's articulation becomes firm. Derek, do you know what I did yesterday? I visited Murdoch Martinez in his home. I apologized to him on your behalf. I like admitting I know that doesn't disengage what you did. I look at him in the eye, and told him that my son's accomplishments don't represent the values of this brand administration or this family. And do you apperceive what he said, Tom? Derek all overs his head, tears streaming bottomward his face. He said, Chief, your son needs help, not protection. Help? And he's right. You hadn't charged me to bond you out. You need to face what you've done and change. Judge Caprio has been alert to aloft this with abysmal effect resting on his face. Now he speaks, and his voice carries the acumen of 3 decades on bench. Arch Cole, Adjudicator Caprio says, I appetite to acknowledge you for your courage today. What you've done standing here, and putting the men's aloft your natural aptitude to assure your child. That takes added backbone that most people will anytime understand. He looks at Derek. Mr. Cole, do you accept what just happened here? Your father, a man who could accept acclimated his access to make this go away. Instead chose to uphold the law. He chose to account Martinez. He chose to account the badges beat for 35 years. That is what integrity looks like. Derek can barely speak through his tears. Your Honor, I am so sorry. I was amiss about everything. Adjudicator Caprio nods. That's the aboriginal honest affair you've said since you absolved into this courtroom. But sorry isn't enough, Mr. Cole. Action shave consequences. And guys, what Judge Caprio says abutting proves why he's beloved by millions about the world. He doesn't just punish, he transforms. He doesn't just accomplish the law, he changes hearts. Subscribe adapted now if you accept this affectionate of amends. Because what comes next is a masterclass in accountability, redemption, and additional chances. Derek Michael Cole. Adjudicator Capri announces his articulation academic now. I find you accusable of advance, an array on unelderly person. This is austere crime made added austere by your complete lack of anguish. A back you aboriginal appeared before me. He pauses, absolution the weight sinking. Actuality is your sentence. You will serve 90 canicule in the Providence County Correctional Facility. You will complete 200 hours of association service, specifically alive with elder veterans at the VA hospital. You will Latin acrimony administration counseling for only a year. And you will address a formal letter of acknowledgement to Mr. Martinez to be read in this courtroom. Followed by a face-to-face affair area, you will apologize to him personally. Derek nods, accepting anniversary allotment of thesans. Yes, Your Honor. But I'm not finished. Adjudicator Caprio continues. Ya will additionally actualize a video acknowledgement. That will be a quaint on the Providence Police Department's amusing media accounts, where you will explain what you did, why it was wrong, and what you're accomplishing to McKeeman's. Your ancestor has agreed to this because Unshine is the best antibacterial for arrogance. Furthermore, Adjudicator Caprio says afterwards you complete your sentence. You will allege to the Providence Police Academy recruits about privilege, accountability, and what happens when you accept your aloft the law. Your father will align this. You will share air adventure not to abase you, but to prevent added adolescent bodies from making the aforementioned mistakes. The book is severe, but purposeful. Every element assigned not aloof to abuse, but to transform. Chief Cole speaks up. Your Honor, I want to add article if I may. Derek will also be effective out of my house. He's 32 years old. He's been active beneath my roof, beneath my protection, beneath my name. That ends today. He needs to learn no angle on his own, abutment himself, and accept that advantage is earned, not inherited. Derek looks at his father with devastation. Dad, it's time. Son, the arch says, his articulation breaking. It's time for you to abound up. Judge Caprio turns to Robert Martinez. Martinez, do you accept annihilation? You'd like to say. The 70-year-old veteran stands slowly, accurate by his good arm. Your Honor, I don't appetite revenge. It just appetite this adolescent man to understand that every actuality he meets deserves respect. Age, rank, position, none of that matters. We're all animal beings trying to alive our lives with dignity. If he learns that lesson, again this whole acquaintance will accept been worth it. The adroitness in those words silenced the absolute courtroom. Actuality is a man who is assaulted, hospitalized, and is respected. Absolution and wisdom instead of anger. Adjudicator Caprio addresses Derek one final time. Cole, you heard Mr. Martinez. A man you assaulted is assuming you added adroitness than you deserve. I advance you absorb your time in aegis cerebration about that. Thinking about the affectionate of man you want to be. Cerebration about whether you want to abide the actuality. Who walked into this attorneys today, or if you want to become addition your ancestor can be proud of. Cloister is adjourned. The gavel comes down. As Admiral access to booty Derek into custody. Arch Cole walks over to Hisson. They angle face to face for a long moment. Again the Arch does something that break everyone's heart. He hugs his son tightly. I adulation you. The chief whispers loud abundant for adjacent Pioplito here. But I adulation you abundant to let you face this. You'll get through it, and aback you do. You'll be better. You'll be the man I apperceive you can be. Derek sobs into his father's shoulder. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. I know, son. Now prove it. The Admiral led Eric away. Arch Cole stands there, watching his son abandoned through the courtroom doors, tears alive down his face. This is what absolute adulation looks like. Not aegis from consequences, but abutment through them. Judge Caprio approaches Arch Cole and extends his hand. The two men shake. A moment of alternate account amid two men who have committed their lives to service. You did the adapted thing, adjudicator Caprio says quietly. Arch Cole nods. Doesn't make it aching any less, no. The judge agrees. But it makes it accounted. Before the attorneys empties, Judge Caprio makes one added announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, what you witnessed here today is not aloof about one case. It's about the best we all face when we adulation is wrong. Do we enable them, assure them, accomplish excuses for them? Or do we adulation them abundant to hold them accountable? He looks about that courtroom. Arch Cole could accept US at his access to accomplish this go away. Instead, he chose justice. He chose Martinez. He chose the ethics he spent this activity upholding. That is courage. That is integrity. That is what real leadership looks like. The courtroom erupts in applause. Bodies are crying. Veterans are saluting Arch Cole. Robert Martinez walks over to the Arch and extends his acceptable hand. Arch Martinez, your son is advantageous to accept after like you. The Arch all overs Hishan, affected with emotion. Martinez. I'm apologetic for what he did to you. He'll learn, Martinez says. And when he does, he'll accomplish you proud. I can see it already. 6 months later, Derek Cole absolved out of the Providence County Correctional Facility. A different man. He had absent weight, gained humility, and began purpose. His 200 hours at the VA hospital had turned it into advance assignment. That connected long after his book was complete. He apologized to Robert Martinez in a meeting that both men declared a shilling. Martinez became a coach to Derek, teaching him about service, sacrifice, and the accurate acceptation of strength. Derek's video acknowledgement went viral, beheld over 3 actor times. Young bodies beyond the country saw what accountability looks like. They saw what happens back advantage meets justice. They saw what absolute transformation rests. Chief Cole abounding every one of Derek's Sanger administration sessions. Not because he had to, but because he capital to support his son's 18-carat change. Their relationship burst by that day in court. Boring rebuilt on a foundation of honesty and alternate respect. And Derek Cole, the aloof man who already said, my dad runs this town, now works as an advocate for adept services. Application history to advise others about privilege, accountability, and redemption. Judge Frank Caprio's accommodation that date and aloof bared justice. It adored a life, healed a family, and accepted that to me times the best admiring affair you can do is to breed to assure addition. From the consequences they charge to face. If this story confused you, if you accept in this kind of justice, allotment this video with someone who needs to apprehend it. Like this video if you account our veterans and respect the adventuresomeness it takes to choose a justice over comfort. Subscribe for added absurd stories that prove benevolence and accountability can coexist. And think adjudicator Caprio's sorts, absolute adulation isn't attention people from consequences. It's acknowledging them through the after effects they charged hope come better. That's the bequest of Judge Frank Caprio. That's the courage of Arch Thomas Cole. And that's the grace of Robert Martinez. Justice he served. A quaint learned.